Okay, hey guys, I'm going to attempt to do homework 2-5. It seems like the most challenging one. I'm going to just walk you through it. So basically the homework is, it wants you to enter 4 words. This is a typo here. 4 words, and then it will print out the position of each word in the sentence. And it will give you the length of the word, and it will give you the position of the vowels if it contains vowels. Now, the method that's used to get these positions, if the character exists, it will return a positive integer, right? Or just a position in the array or the string that letter exists in, right? And if it doesn't exist, it will return -1. So that's why we see -1 on some of these words, because there's no A in she, there's no A in smiles, there's no A in third, there's no A in frisbee. There's a E in she, so you get position 2. There's a E in smiles, so you get position 4. There's no E in third, so you get a -1, right? But there, hopefully you start to catch on to what I'm saying. And if you're asking yourself, well, how is E at position 2 in the word she, right? Because she is 3 letters, and we know the E in she is the last letter, so shouldn't it be third? And yeah, you are right. But in programming, in a lot of languages, the count starts at 0. So S is actually at position 0, and H is actually at position 1, and E is actually at position 2. Hence, E equals 2, right? So you'll see me use these methods, okay? And then we're tracking the position of each word in the sentence. And then, yeah. So let's scroll down. It says, please make sure to end each line of output with a new line. So we know we're going to have to be using system.out.println or system.out.printf, and then we supply the format specifier, and what is it, %n, or \n, right? So new line are very important because we're going to need to be one-to-one as far as the output between what Zybooks has is correct and what your application is running. And also we need to name our class words, because in order to run a Java program, you have to supply the name of the class that contains the main method, right? So Zybooks needs this information so you can run your code. And a quick overview about how Zybooks work, or how I think it works, just based off of doing it, because it's very helpful when you're trying to figure out problems. The way it works is the professor, she came up with these assignments, and she came up with the solutions for the assignment. The solution is an actual program itself. And you can see this is her program output. And what Zybook does is it feeds her program the same input it would feed your program, right? And if you did the program to the specification, you should have the same output as her program, no matter how you chose to do it. In terms of like what methods you use, your variable names, etc. Because this is the assignment is the specification. Your methods and how you got to the end doesn't really matter, you know. It's all about the specification. Everything else is preferential, and that's how it checks, right? So that's very useful to remind yourself when you're trying to solve some of these problems and you're running into errors. Okay, so let's get it going right now. Okay, so sorry, I have here this application I'm using right now to type code is called Visual Studio Code. You could use anything. This is just something that I like to use when I'm writing some of my own personal projects, and the code, you know, is going to span at least, I would say, 100 lines and multiple files. So I might need help tracking stuff, or if it's, you know, whatever. But this is just my preference. This is what I like to use. It's free. It's called Visual Studio Code. and you could write just about any language in there, and there's a ton of plugins for everything. So I would explore it if you'd like, or you could continue to use Eclipse or Notepad or whatever you use. Okay, so notice I have my class here, public class words. This is important because the assignment said you must name your class words, and in Java, the class that contains your main method must be named must have the same name as the name of your file, right? Words.java. As far as I can tell right now, not an experienced Java programmer. Pretty sure there might be some exceptions, but generally speaking, it seems like that's the consensus that I gathered so far. So this is what I do. Okay. Okay. So we know that we need some output, right? Because the assignment said it wants your prompt to the user must be enter 4 works. Now this is a typo, but if the professor had this in her code, you have to have it in your code, right? Because I explained to you how Zybooks works. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in, right? And we know in order to do output, we need system.out.println, and this prints text to the screen, right? Right? Like, I like to just copy and paste stuff in because then you know you're not making any mistakes with spacing and whatnot, because Zybooks is very sensitive, right? And we know we're going to have to get some inputs. So we could go ahead and create a scanner object. So we have the identifier scanner, and the type scanner, and then we need an identifier. I'm going to call it inputs because that's intuitive to me. And then I'm going to do new scanner, and then I'm going to give it an initializing parameter. When you learn about objects and whatnot, you learn about constructors and whatnot. But this is, you want to initialize the object with this argument system in. This is basically your source of input. Think of this as like, you know, your input file. Okay. So now I have a scanner object because I instantiated the scanner class, right? So inputs is my scanner object. Now I need to use it to collect some input, but first I need a variable because I need to store this information because I need to work on it, right, for the assignment. So a sentence, that's a data type suitable for string, right? And we're going to call this sentence, right? Then we're going to get the inputs and put it into assign it to sentence. So we could do sentence equals inputs. We're using the inputs object, and we're going to call the next line method, not the next method, next line, right? Because you want an entire line's worth of input, because this is a sentence. You don't want to use just next, because if you use just next, it's just going to give you the first word of the line, and that's not useful for our purposes, right? And finally, what I'm going to do now is, since I've written about 4 lines of code here, and since we're beginner programmers, it's good to stop and then check, right? As you get a little bit more experience, you could write a little bit more lines of code, but and as the assignments get a little bit more simpler, you could write a little bit more. But generally, a best programming practice is to write a few lines, then test. So we're going to practice that best practice right now. So what I'm going to do is make sure my inputs are working, right, the way I intended to work, by printing it out. I need to see it for myself. I need to see how it's represented in memory, how the application is viewing it, right? So I'm going to do system.out print, and then I'm just going to see my sentence. I need to make sure, this next line method here isn't giving me back just one word, right? And finally, I'm just going to end this because this statement, this is, you know, good practice. Close your resources when you're using it. And this is going to be the last line of our application. So I could afford to put that in right now. And then I'm going to run this application. I'm going to hit Control F5. That's the hotkey to run without debugging. Okay. So we see the prompt here in the console. So I'm going to say computers are fun stuff. Okay. So that was our input. Now we got our output. Okay, good. So we know that works, right? We need verification. We could be confident that up to this point, everything works. If a bug pops up, you know, it's probably something after this test, right? So we could go ahead and delete this out, right? Because we don't need it. That was just a statement to help us make sure everything's working fine. Now, at this point, I'm starting to think about the assignment, what the assignment wants us to do. And I generally like to think of solutions before I even start to write a code. It doesn't have to be completely detailed, you know, but it's very good practice if you could have everything very detailed. But an assignment like this, where I can afford to move quickly, I don't really have to be as detailed, but it's a more complex application based on your experience level, etc. You might want to make sure you know how this thing is going to go, so you don't run into any snags while you're coding. And as it relates to the assignment, I'm thinking right now, after I get this string, how do I count words, right? Like enter, like this sentence. How do I programmatically count words in a sentence, right? And it turns out Java has a string method, right? So any variable that is of type string has a method, has methods, multiple methods that you can use on that variable, right? Because, you know, string is actually a reference type. There's actual methods associated with it that you can call. So I know I can do this, right? I can do sentence and split. And the split method allows us to break up the string based on some based on like a token or some kind of expression that it will look to carry out differentiation, so it could break it up. And for us, it's going to be space, right? Because a sentence for us human beings, what separate words are spaces, right? So I'm going to use this, and what this would do is it would return an array of words, right? It wouldn't be just one string anymore. It would be array of words. So I would do, like, C, for example. I would do this. Let's see. Give me a second here. I'm thinking. Let's do this. Right? We're going to just feed this into print to see the effects of the split method on a string, right? Let's just use this. Okay. So seems like the print method isn't best for this scenario, right? Let's see. printf works. Okay, print method isn't best for this scenario, but the printf method would work. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry guys, I had to go and collect some food from outside. Okay. All right. So we see that the printf method work with printing the returns of the split method on sentence, right? Because we got something back. We got computers back, right? So basically, give me a quick second here. I'm eating again. Sorry. All right. So the split method, it returns an array of things that you split up. So based on the token or the delimiter that you specified, which we specified space. So basically what it says is this sentence below here in the console, it says to make an array, treat each value, each word in this sentence as an element in an array, and you know it's an element if it follows or it comes before space, right? So that's what it's telling us to do, right? So we have words now, and I'm not too sure how you would do it here, but let's see something. In Python, you could do something like this, right? Or you could say, okay, give me the second element of the return value from the split method, right? Let's see if we can do it. I'm not too sure. I'm just going to try because, you know, it could blow up in my face. Let me see. I'm not too sure if this is legal Java. Okay. 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 There we go. So it is legal, right? It is legal. The syntax is legal. So it's an array, right? It's return an array. And I just told it, after you split up that string based on the delimiter of space, a single space, make sure you give me back the second element. Sorry. Yeah, the second element, which is really the third one because everything starts at 0, right? It's a funny thing. Okay. And we see that the third one is fun. Third is the third word in the sentence is fun. So I'm just trying to explain to you what that method does, so you could better figure out or better understand the code that's coming up next. Okay. Now I'm done explaining that. I'm saying now, okay, I need to know the position of the word, right? And I need to know its length, etc. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm not too sure if we've went over loops. I don't think so, but I'm going to introduce it. In Java, you could iterate over a string, right? With these constructs called loops. So I'm really trying to think of a way how to do this without a loop, but still not be hacky. Okay. So we can do for, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. That was a good time to learn. And then we do this. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is called a for loop, and it allows you to execute repeatedly lines of code based on a condition. Once the condition becomes false, it exits the loop and then it continues, right? So, and you can do this string. We get an iterator. Sorry, is it string? Yeah, string. We're going to call it word, right? We give it its type, and then we do colon, and then we're going to give it a value to iterate over, right? So we're going to call this sentence dot split. Okay. We're going to delete this because we don't need it anymore. Okay. We're going to get rid of that. Okay. So we have a this right here. This variable, this iterable. This is going to give us the current position within this array, this return value, right? So I'll show you what I mean. Sometimes these things are better explained by example. Okay, so we're going to do system.out.print word, right? And what's going to happen here, it's going to loop through the array, right? It's going to assign every element to this variable word, all right? And it's going to, word is going to occupy at some point for every iteration of the loop, every element in this array that's returned from this method, right? So we're going to see what happens here. Okay. I'm going to run it. Oops, sorry. I'm going to give it some input. Computers are fine. I was going to put boring. Okay. So that was our input. Now you see computers are fun. What it's doing is it's looping through the array and printing out every element, right? So we see at some point word is assigned each element from this array. That allows us to work on each word at a time. That's what this construct does. So we could do stuff like, oh, do you have any vowels? What's your position in the word, in the sentence, etc., right? Okay, so now we know how to deal with every word, right? We need to figure out its position. And give me a second. Okay, sorry, Eden. We need to figure out its position, right? Because you go back to the assignment, you see the professor's has word equals, sorry, word 1, word 2, word 3. How do we need to count that, right? So what we can do is we could have another variable called init word position, right? And we could initialize it with the value of 1. All right? And in the loop, what we could say is as the last statement in the loop, after we print in stuff to the screen, we would like to increase the value of word position by 1. Right? We do this. The plus plus means to increment by 1. It's the equivalent of word position equals word position plus 1. It's the same thing. I like to use the plus plus depending on which language I'm using. Java, C-like languages, I use the plus plus, right? But you could do it just the way I had it there, right? So that would keep track of what word, right? And now we need, we go back to the assignment. We could track the position of words. I'll prove it to you. System.out.print line word position, right? Control F5. Computers are fine. Okay. So this is the first word. It's position 1. The second word R, position 2. The third word, position 3. Right. So we're tracking those now, and we could put that in our outputs. Right. You see here we have word 1. This we have a numerical way of tracking now. So like 1, 2, 3. We can do that. Okay. Now we need the length of the word, right? And that could be achieved with this one. There's another method that's associated with variables of the string type. So we could do system.out print line, and let's see, word dot length, right? This length method will return the length of a string, right? So that would give us the length of a word, and we're going to run it again to see, because seeing is believing, right? Okay. Okay. So the second integer is the length of the string, right? C is 5, stuff has 5 letters in it, fun has 3 letters in it. Of course, the upper integer is the position of the word in the sentence, and computers has 9 letters in it. So length works. The length method will get you the length of a string, right? Or of this word. Okay, so what else do we need? And then we see we need to figure out if it has what's the index of these vowels, if it exists at all, right? So we could use another method. System.out print line word index of, and we can supply a character. So A, right? And we can, let's do some string concatenation here. And we do, yeah, we can do this. A equals whatever position that is, right? And we could repeat that. Right, system.out print line E equals, right? I'm forgetting my vowels. E, A, E, I, O, U, right? Okay. Plus word index of, okay, E. Okay. AEI plus word.index of. Right, I'm just going to print out the position of all these vowels. All right, time to speed things up. And so A-E-I-O-O, just speeding things up, right? And we need U this time, so we're just going to quickly edit this instead of manually typing it out. Okay, just speeding things up. Okay, so just to make it more comprehensible, I'm just filling in some text so we can make it more comprehensible at the terminal. Okay, okay, or position. Okay, right. Now let's run this again. Computers are fun. Okay. Let's take a look at the output. Okay. So word here is computers. It's at position 1. It's length this. Contains E, because remember, -1 means it doesn't contain it, right? It doesn't contain a vowel, that specific vowel. Okay, we see we have an E here at 6, right? And a U here at 4. Okay. Yeah. And all you have to do from here would just to be format your output, right? Format your output to this, and you're good to go. So without doing the assignment completely, you got to see how you can you got to see the logic, or a variation of the logic that could be used to fix this, because there's probably multiple ways of doing this, different ways, or 3 main ways, or whatever. But this is the way I used it. It could have been done recursively too, but recursion is another headache that you'll probably run into later on. Okay, but yeah, everything that I just showed you here, this could be used to solve homework 5.